Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I'm Nicole, your host. We have the great pleasure of speaking with Lisa today about the power of transforming fear. So, I want to thank you for tuning in. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to just dive into this topic.
Oh, I'm so excited. Why I'm excited to talk about fear. I don't know, but I think, maybe we can shed some new light on this topic for everyone.
Yeah, because, well, for one, of course, thinking back to caveman days, fear kept people alive, right? Like they didn't take unnecessary steps to do things that may get them killed by whatever is beyond their control. So I get the innate safety, mindset behind it, but we don't really have those types of things anymore. So what have you, well, for one, how did you get started in this with fear? What led you to discover like how to transform your fear?
So it's really interesting because of all the things that I really worked on, it always starts with yourself.
Hmm.
And so even before I was really in the health coaching and the transformational training type of thing, just for me, I found that there were these things that were preventing me from making steps forward. These
Mm.
things called the F words, little fears of a lot, and I would use them as a means to justify me not transforming or changing from one job to another because it wasn't the right or prudent thing, or because people had said something in the past. There were a number of reasons why I wouldn't do things, but I could zero it down to different fears that I had. And so I started really thinking about this thing we call fear. And I would read so much about how do you deal with fear? How can you move beyond fear? And there's a bazillion books out there and a lot of advice out there. And I wasn't really finding the ones that sort of helped me.
Hmm.
I played around a lot with, just face fear and conquer it, step beyond it. This kind of like destroy it. You are the conqueror and you can get beyond it. And that maybe works in some ways, but what I found for the long term for me, that
Hmm.
wasn't a solution. And
Hmm.
so it really was a result of just some challenges I had, mostly and I'm going to say, bring it down from moving from the field of practicing law and going into singing and acting. And moving from
Hmm.
the practice of law and going into singing and acting, there was a lot of little things and big things that were starting to stand in my way. And I wanted to find a way of dealing with them effectively.
Hmm. I love that. A lot of times I like how you mentioned
Yeah.
there are a lot of little things like fear shows up in such logical reasons, like why we can't do something or why we shouldn't do something, right? It feels logical. And a lot of times it is logical, and we tend to forget to question that logic though. So how did you get to that
Yes.
point, or how do you work with people, helping them one identify that it's a fear that is really stopping them, and that reason that they're giving is is their fear as opposed to like something they really should be fearful of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. I just love to redefine fear for
Hmm.
people. Because it just in and of itself, because of its origin, as you mentioned before, running from a saber-toothed tiger, I mean, like you better be fearful and run. But
Hmm.
these kind of fears that prevent you from living your life fully in the ways that you want, if you look at it, and I started looking at it as, okay, I'm not going to run away from my fear, and I'm not going to prop it up like it's this big bad monster that I have to conquer. I'm going to look at fear as this is a natural part of living. Like we all have fears. And as a matter of fact, what I noticed is when my fears would come, it was in a response to I was faced with a challenge that on the other end was going to be a great possible opportunity, a new thing I've never done before, something that was going to challenge me in some different way that maybe I would need to get additional training for or whatever, but it was going to bring this new gift in my life. And if
Hmm.
I think about fear as sort of facing these episodes or events and recognizing that with that facing these things, I'm able to access this a resilience. So that's an FEAR. It's like facing and then accessing this resilience. So
Mhm.
there's something that is on the okay, it's going to challenge me side, but there's something very confident and comforting on getting on the other side of the fear.
Mhm.
And I started testing this out. I mean, it's a theory, but I wanted to test this theory. So I say, for clients, it's like the first thing first is, right, I'm fearful, but where is this coming from? Like it
Mhm.
comes from something. It's
Mhm.
in the origin is from something. I'm fear of I'm going to fail, or I'm fear of the thing itself. So there's something about it. So there's something I need to prepare for to get me ready for this. Or I'm fear because someone's told me I can't do it. So I'm fear because it's old statements, old habits, old um, events that happen in my life that are coming back and talking to me in that reasoned voice, but it's
Mhm.
just a fear voice coming back forward. So if I know the origins of it, and then I can think about what's on the other side of the fear, what is this opportunity that could be if I go through that door, I
Mhm.
can start to refocus. Now I know who the enemy is. So I can put them in their place temporarily. I can talk them and know that, okay, I know where this is coming from. And
Mhm.
now I can super focus on what this is on the other side. And
Yeah.
once you do that, you can make that little transition. It's like, oh, okay, there's other steps in it, but now I'm on the other side and I can start to really deal with the other parts that come about from being fearful, which can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. I'm sure people here, if you've ever had a fear of speaking on a stage and you go on a stage and there's some things that may happen to you, as you're walking up the steps or as you look
Mhm.
out in the audience. But now we can start to play around with, well, those things aren't necessarily negative things.
Mhm.
I think about Beyonce and her Sasha Fierce and her talk with herself behind stage. I don't think anyone that's seen her perform said, "Oh, look at that fearful lady." So they're singing her heart out. But she had a lot of stuff backstage and a
Yeah.
and a system to go through so that when she hit, she could take all of those feelings and things that are happening physically inside and transform that into a performance for her. Or
Mhm.
for anyone, maybe it's transformed into a super wonderful interview or whatever it is that you're attempting to do. Now you're able to do it and you're so much more at ease and
Mhm.
at peace because you nourished all sides of what's going on inside. You
Yeah.
didn't vanquish something, you didn't have to step on something. You recognized it, you understood it, and then now you can move forward in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And what came to me as you were sharing that is like fear, it takes energy to be fearful. So you're just transforming that energy into something that's going to help you get beyond that fear or and get to the other side, right? So how do you
Yes.
shift? Yeah.
It's
So
and every time you do it, you get stronger.
yeah.
Every time it's like lifting a weight. Every time
Mhm.
you work the muscle, you get stronger at it. And you start to get to a point where, for me, I seek out my fears. I look for them. I try to
Mhm.
find them because I realize, oh, okay, so this is a fear that I have, and it's because there's another opportunity there. And there's
Mhm.
some things that are trying to keep me from my purpose, like the things I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
let that happen.
Yeah.
It's, and you start to, get a little bit more strength and that spirit of resilience and purpose
Mhm.
as you go through. I just think
Yeah.
it's a different way of looking at fear. And I really am, when I hear people say, oh, I just don't think about my fears or I put them aside or I step over them. And I'm thinking, mm, really for the long term? Because I think if you're not really, that fear is a piece of you.
I was just gonna say that.
And we don't want to, we don't want to toss away things that are helping us. Fear can
Yeah.
be something that helps you forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And stepping over it and tossing to the side, it's like a part of you, like you are not approving or accepting a piece of you, right? So when you don't accept part of yourself, you're not being heard, And that just makes the fear multiply, it seems, right? It's like, can you not
Oh,
hear me?
yes. And you think you buried it. I've worked with so many clients that talk about, oh, I buried that. Well, there's nothing that's truly buried. It
Hmm.
is down, it may be not something on the forefront, but go
Hmm.
in one situation that brings that forward, and it's almost like there was nothing bearing it at all. It just came right back to the forefront,
Hmm.
and it'll attach itself with other negative thoughts and
Yeah.
it'll feed on itself. So
Yep.
it's like so tied directly to the fear side of things is those negative thoughts that can feed the fear and keep
Hmm.
it alive and keep it
Hmm.
growing. So we
Yeah.
kind of deal with both of them at the same time. So we don't let them, I don't let them know they have to be heard. Uh,
Hmm.
and you said something earlier, which I think is really great, is they have to be challenged. Just because it's a thought doesn't mean it's right. Just
Hmm.
because it's a memory doesn't mean it's correct. It's
Hmm.
sometimes just listening, and you can realize for yourself, like half the things that you're telling yourself are false, are
Yeah.
misleading,
Yep.
or not the whole picture, um,
Hmm.
or you're seeking to only focus on the negative
Yeah.
when there was all this beautiful positive around it.
Yeah.
I love this example I read the other day. It was something that Einstein had done for a class that he had. And he wrote out these math problems, and it was just the nine tables, 9 times 1, 9 times 2. And purposely, 9 times 9 put the wrong number. And everyone in the class just super focused. They were laughing and they were like focused on, like, you made the wrong, you made a mistake. Like Einstein, you made a mistake. I'm sure that made them feel so amazing.
Yeah.
And he said, isn't it wonderful look how the mind works. It will find the fault. It will find the one thing that you did wrong
Yeah.
and negate all of the 9 things that you did right.
Hmm.
And that's what we do with our thoughts. And so to give people that ability to go back to listen to what you're saying to yourself. And what were the 9 things that you did right? What were the 9 beautiful things that were around whatever thing you're talking about? That now we can start to reimagine that thought. And so when it comes to the surface, you're prepared for it with the 9 good things that you can come back. Yeah, I did make that mistake. I'm not saying there's things that might be true on it.
Yeah.
But here's the other 9 things that make me feel really good, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. I love that. I said a comment, use your past as to show how strong you are and show how you
Yeah.
can overcome things. Like that's what your past should tell you. Like I made it through some stuff, right? So that's how you can like. And there were times, sometimes when we are fearful, we get in we get into action. We don't realize our fear until we're faced again, and then it's not as dire of a situation, and then you're fearful. But if you think back, you're like, you went through something similar and you just did it. So what makes you not be able to do it again? So that's why I like to use the past as like a reminder, a book of I did it.
Yes, I love that. It's like the success. We build on those successes.
Hmm.
I often say, like with fears, because we have them and they'll come. And sometimes you can avoid doing something. So you can say, or you can put something off for years and years.
Hmm.
That's in our most of our abilities for most things. Um, but I say, it either you're going to really face the fear, you're going to fall to it. Like you'll fall to it, and part of falling is falling to the negative thoughts that prevented you from doing it. You're falling to those things. And the glorious thing that I love about this beautiful life, and I say that taking into account all of us have had some things that we would not classify as beautiful, a part of our life. But if we're here still talking, it's a beautiful life because we have opportunity to change every second beyond the words that we speak. So, but I love the idea of just embracing this whole entire process and recognizing that, all of these things were a measure you mentioned of who we are today.
Hmm.
You know, I had an opportunity to write a book, and I really wrote the book in part to deal with a unique way, because I found like a lot of people would come to me and say, I want to lose this weight or I want to do this. But really what they needed was a work the muscle between the ears, because they
Mhm.
were caught in routines and habits and thoughts and things that were taking them so far down the rabbit hole. They didn't know why they weren't successful on things because they never really took a time to kind of look at where they were.
Yeah.
And I think, recognizing this is just this glorious journey. And, we talked a little bit before we started, but for
Mhm.
me, I was an overweight child, and the teasing and the things that were said to me, and you would think, oh, it was said to you, and that was like you were 7 or 9, like but
Mhm.
I didn't think about them all the time as attached to that event, but I
Yeah.
incorporated them into my life. And it was a
Yeah.
seed that replanted itself several times over a long period of my life that sometimes would get in my way in a unhealthy relationship I had with food for many years, and dieting, food and dieting. So I say that as, even those things that we throw away as, oh, this is something someone said to me, or the old thing, sticks and stones, no, those thoughts, those words, those actions can, it's like they replant themselves unless and until you come back and say, no, 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 let me
Yeah.
hear this. Let them be heard. Let me till this garden. Let me know where it came from. And
Mhm.
so when something else comes up, I know if that thought were ever to come back into my mind, I know from whence it came, and I know
Mhm.
from the effect it had, and I know all the successes since. So I
Mhm.
have the ability to neutralize it a bit. I don't
Mhm.
kill it, it's still there, but I've created a relationship with it, if you will. It's a piece
Yeah.
of me, it's a piece of my past. I'm not erasing my past. I'm
Right.
just at peace with it, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's a place that people have a challenge getting to, is a piece of their past. I have to cough. Excuse me. Random. Let me take a sip. um, excuse me. What
That's
comes to mind is, how I think I was studying either emotion code or a subconscious release technique, but I like how you mentioned that something was going on at that the fear was attached to like a something that happened, right? And it was a story I heard where somebody was allergic to a perfume or something. I mean, this is not really fear based, but it just shows how we attach things to things, right? And it wasn't so much that they were allergic to whatever that was; it was what was going on around the time that they smelled that perfume. So it was something that was dangerous or something that was traumatizing for them, and that scent is got associated in their brain with that event. So anytime they smell that, it triggered that. So when you were talking about how the fear, something was going on and it attaches, it's good to know what that fear has attached to, because it'll keep showing up in those types of scenarios. So I loved when you said that.
it's like it's a moment of empowerment for you, the
Hmm.
person, when you find that. And I always say, the clients with, it's like to me, it's almost like you have this opportunity to bring something into the spotlight, because into the dark so much can exist that is fearful. We the dark, you can't see it, and it can be, it can seem so much bigger than it really is in the dark. But when
Hmm.
you really take the moments to shine the light, it's amazing when you can say to yourself, like, okay, that really isn't as insurmountable as I thought.
Yeah.
And I am giving voice and words to something that was really controlling me internally. I must say it's like a marionette. When you're not in control, you are like a marionette. Your thoughts,
Yeah.
your negative vibes, your experiences are just moving the strings for you, and
Yeah.
you're not living your life truly.
Yeah.
And there's where the lack of freedom is a big word for me. I love to free your mind, your space of the relationship with fear. You're not freeing it that fear will never exist. No, it will, but you're freeing the relationship
Yeah.
with it. And you're snipping and snapping off the thoughts that attach themselves. And
Hmm.
so by doing so, the fear loses its power to
Hmm.
prevent you from doing what you were destined to do. It
Yeah.
won't stop you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And it
already know
is,
what.
it, oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry, Nick. No, I
No,
was
no.
going to say, it's like I'm looking at a door. It's like, I tell the story sometimes when I speak about, I was taking acting courses in college and I loved it. And
Mm.
I was pretty darn good. I'm not going to lie. And my teacher
Mhm.
had set up a producer from Hollywood to see three students. And on the other side of the door was the producer. And I walked up to the door and I said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to be going to law school. It doesn't make sense." I said a bunch of things, but it was a lot of fear between me and the door.
Yeah.
And the fear went out that particular day. I talked myself out of it. I said, "Well, there's other people in, and I'll just tell my teacher later, and I'm not going to do it." I didn't do it.
Mm.
And I always think about it as a metaphor for how fear can be between you and you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I could have gone in there. Maybe that wasn't going to be whatever it could have been, but it could have been something we won't know what that
Yeah.
was because I didn't allow myself to meet the fear.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that experience can also be an empowerment to remind you in the future when the doors are there, don't let something that maybe is from your past, or maybe it's just something people said or did, or that had a hurtful impact on you. Don't let those things prevent you from
Yeah.
looking and doing the work you need to be able to open the doors for your life.
Hmm.
Because I
I
feel like that's just a metaphor. It was a specific thing for me, but people face that every day of their
yeah.
lives.
Yeah. And I like your perspective
Yeah.
of the circumstance, right? You didn't dwell on the fact that what could have happened because you don't know, but we have a tendency, I could have done this and I would have blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you don't really know because you didn't even give yourself the chance to do that. So, if nothing else, don't let that happen again. Don't let the
Don't.
sales talk
Yes.
you
Yes.
into, right? Like so you already know what the salesman is going to say. So you make up your mind that no matter what the salesman tried to sell you on, that you can't do this, you can't do that. I hear you, salesman. I appreciate you, but I've already made my mind up. I'm going to do this. So let me just excuse me. Appreciate you.
What's so funny is that you call it a salesman, and as as early as I can remember, when I started identifying the internal voice, it would always be a man. Now, no, no offense to any men that are listening to this, it really had nothing to do. Wasn't trying to be sexist, but for whatever reason, I would always think of it this man talking in my head, telling me, something negative, and so sometimes I'll have those funny conversations right back. Um, just to assert the positive aspects of whatever is being driven to me. But you said salesman, it just made me smile for a minute.
I love it. Oh man, that's the English language for you. Also, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's I love that perspective, and I hope that whoever is tuning in now or gets the chance to watch this later, that they just take from this, like, whatever things in their past that they were fearful and did not move forward, that they just revisit, like, what all was going on, like reframe everything that was happening, and just know that at that time that's all they knew, and now they know better. So,
Exactly. I came up with something. I called it the PODD. And I say it's the steps to get to that place of hope. And it's like that P is to process your pain, and the ways, and there's so many different experts and things and ways to go about, but take a moment. Don't avoid it. It's
Mm-hmm.
important. And then the O is to own your choices,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have choices and we make choices every day, and that's not a bad thing. And yes, we can own even some of the bad choices we've made in the past. And the
Yeah.
ownership is a way of empowerment,
Yeah.
because everything is not just put upon us. Some of it is the choices that we made.
Yeah.
And then you're moving into like discovering your authentic self and defeating your inner defeaters. And the process of that constantly, a lifetime through, which is, who's saying that you do these things and now you're done and now I just live? No, living is continually doing these things so that you're on top of this beautiful thing that we call life, and you have the opportunity to be present in the
Yeah.
moment, as opposed to living or letting the past live you, or
Yeah.
just dreaming of the future and keeping, we talked about that chasm between where you are in the future, and keeping a permanent chasm there because you're too far just living in the future that didn't happen, and you're not doing anything to make it happen because of the past. So
Yeah.
I love that idea of just recognizing it's a work in, this is what I mean by work in progress. I think people throw that term out there. Oh, I'm a work in progress. Well, what are you doing to work on? Like, are you really
Right.
working?
What exactly?
Are
Yeah.
you
Where?
doing anything?
Right. You're right. Because I've heard it very casually, and just knowing some of the people who've said it, I'm like, but I haven't seen a change. So can I help?
Yes. Hmm.
So yeah. But I will say, like folks like you are a blessing, and I get people talk to me all the time because I'm like, you're be mindful of your words and your thoughts, because they really are they really do create your reality. And you were saying how trying to live in a future, like if you're living out there, then what you're, because right now is creating out there, right? If you're living out there,
Yes.
then that means you're not really creating out there. So leave out there to itself. It'll get here at some point.
Yes.
Create
And
your
and there's
future
a
right
two
now.
it's a two-way to look at it, because I've talked to some professionals and others that say, no, well, Lisa, I have clients like visualize, and they can
Mhm.
visualize and visualize, and I say, I agree 100%. Yes, I love pictures and visualization, but I also love action and completion.
Mhm.
And so you have to have that balance. A
Yeah.
lot of people I find in terms of my clients are living their future is not necessarily the visualized future, but it's more like the things they're dreading, that they've already put together this whole picture of what's going to happen, and then they have the emotions attached to it already. It hasn't even happened yet. They know they're feeling a certain way, they're dreading this and that. And I said, the funny thing is that you haven't even had the conversation. You haven't even gone there yet. You don't even know any of this. And yet your body is manifesting these things, and you're going to
Mhm.
go in the situation manifesting the most negative aspect, and you're going to draw that negative aspect to you,
Prove
because
yourself
you're
right.
going to say something, you're going to do you're just operating in this space. And it's a very few people that can, and everyone has to just, how can you stay in the present with a good visualization of the future, but appreciation of where you are right now, because
Yeah.
you don't want to miss this for thinking about something that didn't happen.
Yeah.
This can be so brilliant, and the
Hmm.
future is every second that's ahead of us. That's a future too. So we don't want to avoid that future, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yes.
that balance, but you have to work it. It's a muscle. I love
Yeah.
working out muscle. That's a cool one to work.
It is. Once you realize how powerful you really are, it's like, holy crap.
Yes. We're powerful. That's
Yeah,
right.
man.
We're superpowers. We're like
Yes.
superheroes. That is
Yeah, we
right.
are. We are
I
freaking
love it.
heroes. So, of our lives, let's step into that. Um, 30 minutes just flies. I don't understand how that happens. But so I would like to invite you to share, of course, anyone who's been hanging out with us for a while, Lisa's information is in the description. How to contact her is in the description. But Lisa, I want to invite you to share if you have any workshops or programs that you've got coming up that you want to offer, anything like that. Feel free to share that right now.
Oh, thank you, Miss Nikki. So anyway, never far from my grasp is my book. Yes, Commit
Yes.
to Live. This book is a book of transformation. It's not just about, oh, Lisa's story of her life. No, I want this book to be one that you transform by reading it. And so it really takes you on every step to transform the mind. I call it the brain body connectivity, and give you and launch you into something I call age defying living. So I love for people to jump into their age and know how to do that in the most marvelous of ways. And so, yes, Commit to Live is on Amazon, and it lives on every other book platform as well, Barnes and Noble and any other Apple books. And it is definitely a baby of mine, and I love it so much that there is a workshop I have coming up that is with the South Orange Maplewood School District. And I'm going to be doing it both virtually and in person. It's going to be a 1 day workshop to get your life in gear, to get
Right.
your life ready. So that's going to be on November 20th, and you can find that on Adult School in South Orange, Maplewood. And then I am always here I do a lot of keynote. I love doing things. I have a lot of things with women's groups, and not just women's groups, all different groups, church groups, and the like,
Mhm.
um, just on any aspect of aging and any aspect of this brain body connection, which you might see my thing back here. I have something called Brain Fit. So I
Mhm.
like to get you really connected between the brain and body. So those are ongoing workshops. And obviously, visit my website. And I'd love to work with anyone that just wants to be a little bit more sharp.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A lot of great nuggets this day, and yeah, I really appreciate your time. And I just want to say thank you to those who have been able to join us live, and thank you to those who's catching this on the back end, and to those who are sharing this to someone who needs to hear it. So just want to remind you, like, subscribe, share, comments. We'll continue posting in the comments. We'll check back on a regular basis. If Lisa misses it, I'll make sure I share it with her so she can respond. But until then, we will see you next time. Thanks again, Lisa. Ciao, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.